Hey everybody, this is Andrew Kimmons with Kimmons Toolworks. I have a short little show and tell for everyone today, and that would be the first official chef's knife that I have completed that'll be shipping out just here in a few minutes. And it's the first one technically because I don't consider the prototypes to be the first ones because they aren't in any of the advanced steels or any of the CPM steels. I'll very rarely prototype something in those just because the steel itself is so expensive. Um, so this is the first official one, and it's in CPM 20 CV. And I finished honing it this morning, and it kind of made me laugh. I went through a progression on it because I left, here, let me show you the knife and let's talk about it a little bit. It'll be a little bit easier. On the prototype, I ground it down to where this was 20 thousandths, and I felt that that was too thin. I didn't like that. It felt too light. So the two changes I made between the prototype and the real ones was I left this at 30 thousandths. I made this 10 thousandths of an inch thicker, and I went with a stock thickness of 150 thousandths versus the prototype was 1/8 inch, which is 125 thousandths. So I brought the thickness up a little bit to increase the heft, and I added another 10 thousandths here. And when I was honing this, because it's all hand honed, I'm not gonna take the actual edge to a machine or anything like that. I hone everything by hand. So no guide, no nothing. I don't mess with that with knives. So when I was honing this, I started on an extra coarse. It might be an extra coarse. It's an extra coarse, I think, but it doesn't matter. A very coarse DMT stone, which it's like there's like diamond gravel stuck to it. And that's just how I get the bevel set for the most part, and I'll get the majority of the material removed just down to where I have a burr. And just like anything else, particularly straight razors, but knives are this way, I'll take it and I'll kill the edge on the edge of the stone to take that burr and either take it off or knock it down, which on the edge of a DMT is against steel. So I'll take it and wipe it on that a couple of times, and then you can feel on your first stroke forward and back, you can feel just like with a chisel, you can feel the burr rip, and you'll feel a catch, and it'll be like, and it'll kind of skip. But so I went through, and the first time on the extra coarse stone had a little burr, went to the coarse and did the same thing, just pretty much got everything in tune with the coarse, and went to kill the burr, and then figured, you know what, it's coarse stone, but I might as well. So I checked it just to see if it would shave hair, and I hit my arm and it was shaving hair already off of the coarse stone, and it was shaving hair after being drug on a piece of steel, which I thought was really cool. And so I was like, holy crap, like this is setting a whole new standard right here for kitchen cutlery. I have never in my life dealt with any sort of kitchen knife that that felt like this to hone. It wasn't hard to hone at all, but it just felt like a quality piece of CPM steel, which you just are not used to feeling on a kitchen knife. So to me, that was super cool. Because I mean, this has been the steel that I've wanted to make chef's knives with for like 8 years, and I've always thought like this would be the ideal steel for this application. It's taken me 8 years to get around to doing it, but finally did it, and here it is. And even honing it felt really awesome. It just takes the most crazy edge imaginable. And anyway, so I progressed it to a well-worn fine DMT, and that's where I left it, because when you go overboard and go finer and finer and finer, like if I were to move that to a black Arkansas and finish it on that, it tends to get so sharp that it doesn't have the bite that really is helpful in the kitchen. Like I can sit there and hone this thing absolutely to the most crazy possible extent and finish it on a black arc, like on a worn in black arc, which is a burnished black arc, and then go and it won't cut through the skin of a tomato because it has no bite. So you want a chef's knife, any knife in the kitchen, to have a kind of a bite to it. Otherwise, some applications, it just doesn't work very well. So that's where I left it, was at the fine DMT, and then I did just an unpasted strop. I don't use pasted strops, I just stropped it a little bit. And there we have it. Curly Cherry, the first one. The steel is absolutely freaking incredible. And you can see the fit and finish on this. It's obviously a little smudgy because my hands are not always clean. It's gonna get a final cleanup before we ship it, but the edge on there is cool. And this thing is just insanely sharp. Anyway, if you are ever interested in custom knives, whether they be kitchen knives, regular knife, hunting knives, even a custom knife that you want to draw up and send me the specs or a drawing of it, chances are I can probably make a super custom knife like that. And all you need to do, send me an email, andrew@kimmonshandtools.com, and let me know what you're looking for, and we can talk about pricing. I don't put a whole lot of pricing information out there because things have to change sometimes. And if somebody comes across a video that's 2 years old or whatever, or a post, an old post, I don't want to have bad information about that out there. So things do change, materials change in price. I have to bounce from vendor to vendor to vendor sometimes to get what I want. Like Magna Cut sometimes is hard to get in particular sizes. Like a lot of good steels are kind of hard to get in specific sizes. So kind of have to bounce around and shop around a little bit. So I don't like to put out a whole lot of information that could be deemed bad information in the future. But Andrew at kimmonshandtools.com, and yeah, or any of the woodworking tools, woodworking chisels, knives, pretty much just about any cutting tool within reason. Yeah, send me an email. Let's talk about it. And for what you get, the pricing's really not all that bad. I mean, yeah, it's going to be way more expensive than if you go and buy something at Walmart or at Harbor Freight, obviously, but for what you're getting, it's really not that bad, considering, you know, the piece of steel required to make that knife costs more than if you were to go buy like a Wusthof knife or something like that, or a relatively high-end production chef's knife. This piece of steel costs more than that. So when you're starting with materials like that, and then I have like at least a very full day's labor in this, when I break it down into everything, plus consumables, plus, you know, keeping the heat and the lights on in here, what you get for the price is extremely fair. This is something that if I couldn't make it, I would buy that personally. Especially after experiencing what I experienced with this today. It's just not very often that I hone a knife and it just makes me start laughing. Like, this is insane. Like, I don't know, it made me very happy. And don't forget, there's all kinds of different weird chisels that I've started making, and I don't think a lot of people really know that or have caught up entirely with all the stuff I'm making, but I do make fishtail chisels in multiple sizes. So, and the side flats on those are extremely small. So this is just a prototype one. That's not exactly what they'll look like. And an option, if you want fishtail chisels and want to save some money on them, I developed an option that makes them cheap to where you can just buy them with G10 scales on them. And then that will save me a bunch of time and it'll save you a bunch of money. And you get the exact same tool. It's the exact same tool, perform the exact same way, exact same steel. It's just cheaper because I don't have to sit there and make a socket and a handle, because the sockets are very time consuming. When I set up to make sockets, I'll start with like a 6-foot long piece of bar stock, and for a week straight, or even more sometimes, all I'll do is make sockets. That's all I'll do for like a week and a half. And that's, you know, hence the lead times, because a lot of times I've got to take a week and a half to make those. I got to take a week and a half to make end caps, and like for almost a month I'll be doing nothing but machining sockets and end caps. And then once I have all the sockets and end caps done, stuff just relatively goes pretty quick. Blades are pretty quick, handles are pretty quick, but getting all the little pieces, bits and pieces together, it's a lot of work and labor intensive. But I hope everybody likes this. There's going to be an incredible amount of handle options for these, including if you have material that you want as a handle for chisels or for tools, you can send me material. I'd be more than happy to work with your material. And I can even do handle scales out of burls if you are a fan of burl. Maple burl in particular stabilizes just as well as normal maple, so it's an incredible material if you're looking for a burr that's a burl that's relatively stable. Other than that, I'm going to start working with various stone as handles. I'm gonna make one for my mom and for me that are sort of prototypes, because they're going to have white turquoise scales on them. And it's something I'm going to have to learn how to do. It's not something I know how to do already. So there will definitely be some learning curve to it. I'll probably damage the material many times, and the only place I was able to procure the white turquoise, which is really odd because turquoise is mined in the southwestern United States, the only place I was able to buy the turquoise to make the scales was shipped from China. I do not know why, but I could only find it from freaking China. So I had to order something directly from China. So, you know, I don't even know if that'll ever show up. I never ordered things from China. I have no idea, you know. I don't even remember the last time I ordered something from China. But, so I had to give the Chinese a little bit of my business, which I'm not super happy about, but you know, I guess the Communist Party has to eat over there, right? And whatever. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, yeah, I think the white turquoise will look pretty cool. I also want to get into like having jade as an option, and other, not only just stones, but gemstones, and possibly like invest in a lapidary saw and find stones, procure interesting stones, and cut them and do the entire process myself would be kind of a cool thing. And for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, that's getting very much into the artistic realm, and that's not something that would be cheap for me to do. But it will be possible. To be 100% honest with you, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff when I started. Nobody, you know, nobody ever really taught me anything about doing any of this stuff. So I had no idea how to do any of this. And I just learned it and didn't give up. And that's really all you have to do, is have a plan and don't give up. And it might take some, you know, the only thing I really knew was the metallurgy going into it. I didn't even know how to turn a handle on a lathe. I had no idea. And yeah, so I walked into it knowing the metallurgy, and that's about it, and having some ideas for unique heat treatment procedures, which turned out to be quite successful. And for every successful heat treatment procedure I've had many failures. Believe me, it's not like, you know, I can just, you know, go meditate for 20 minutes and come up with a revolutionary way of heat treating steel. I've had many failures on many different materials. I've had a lot of broken and cracked material, because I always like to push the boundary, but not push it to the point that I have a failure. Like, you have to go right up to that line and not cross it. But that line isn't always in the same place, because, you know, how you change prior variables can determine where that line is. So let's say that you use a certain procedure and the line's here and it can't go any further this way. If you go any further this way, you're going to have a failure. Well, if you use different procedures leading up to that point, that critical point of variable that we're discussing here, maybe you can move that line from here to here. And now this is the line you don't want to cross. And everything on this side of it's in this range is good. So that's kind of my philosophy with heat treating, is not to go over the line. And really, if I don't like where the line is, can I move it? I mean, so yeah, I've had a lot of failures in that, but that's kind of obvious. It's pushing the boundaries safely and reliably, I guess. That's the way I look at it. So anyway, Andrew at kimmonshandtools.com. If you're interested in the whole working with stone thing, let me know. You know, you can send me an email, we can talk about it. I think it's a pretty unique thing, a pretty cool thing. And there's a number of things I actually want to do. I've figured out how to make serration, so I could do bread knives and things like that as well. And I just imagine like a knife set. I can make the knife blocks and everything, like a nice knife set, matching gemstone handles, you know, bread knife, serrated knife like that. I think that would be sweet. And then make the knife block too. I mean, we're talking, that wouldn't be cheap, but it would be one of those things that you'd pass down generation to generation. And eventually I'm gonna make myself a set like that, and I'll make my mom a set like that, and it'll just be piece by piece, probably over the course of years, have all that stuff come together, because I just never have the extra time to devote to really doing anything for myself. I almost never make myself any tools because I just don't have the time. I would love to. I would love to have my tool board back there just full. Like every chisel, one of every chisel I make on that board, just full. Someday, that's my plan. No time soon, but I'm still waiting for that one customer that comes along that wants one of everything, so I can see everything together. That would be the coolest thing ever, you know. There's got to be somebody out there that would want to do one of everything, to have the most complete and comprehensive set of tools that I make on the face of the planet. And yeah, I would love to see that. So if it doesn't happen, I'll eventually have to do it, but not anytime soon. I have many more important things to do before that, like get this knife shipped out. And so that is really all I have for today. If you're interested in anything, Andrew at kimmonshandtools.com. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying that today. It's Andrew at kimmonshandtools.com. And yeah, I can make regular bevel edge bench chisels in like short, what I consider the sizes, short, which is like a 2-inch, a little over 2-inch, standard, which is 4 to 4.5, the long, which is 6 to 6 and a whatever, and the paring chisel that everybody calls them, that's just like the extra long to me, and those end up 8, 8.25, somewhere around there. So I can make those, dovetail chisels, fishtail chisels, mortise chisels, big framing chisels, even framing chisels in like CPM Magna Cut and stuff like that, where, you know, if you left them outside they wouldn't rust, and they perform super well. So yeah, all kinds of stuff. And I know I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff too. I can make all kinds of stuff. Andrew at kimmonshandtools.com. And if you're the random person out there that wants the complete comprehensive set of everything, send me an email, because this would be freaking epic. I mean, with as many tools that I have no idea what this build would even cost. I've never even added it all. I think I might have a very long time ago, but things have changed since then. I've come out with a lot more tools, because once upon a time I only made 4 sizes, and I know a lot of you remember that. Like I made a 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1, and it was like, if you don't want a 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1, I don't have it. Because it's really all I knew how to make. I had to figure out how to do everything piece by piece, and a lot of times I'll just take an order on something and figure it out. And like, I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out. I have a lot of stuff like that. So I have to get back to work, get back to grinding. Most of my fingertips are ground off at this point. It's quite uncomfortable. So one of those reasons why I know there's always a handful of people why are your tools so expensive? that's not, that's not right or whatever. And that's like, I'm out here at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday with my fingertips ground off. It's like, really? Really? It's like, because you have no freaking idea what I go through and how much work I put myself through and how much these cost to make. The cost to make these is astronomical. Like, when your material bill for steel for the month costs more than your mortgage, and that's like not even making many tools. Like, I've ordered thousands of dollars of steel in one shot before, and it's like crazy. Anyway, Andrew at KimmonsHandTools.com. If you want awesome cutting tools like this beautiful knife in CPM 20CV, or Magna Cut, or even, more basic steels. Doesn't have to be a CPM steel. If you want to save a little bit of money, I can do some cheaper steels. Yeah, or even if you want S30V, S90V, any of the other knife steel alloys. If there's something you really like, I don't really recommend S90V or something like that, or like the S110V. I wouldn't really recommend that for a chef's knife, and I wouldn't even warranty that, because you get into hitting hard bone with a steel like that, like the likelihood of that. Because I've heard many stories of the that Spyderco, which is a really good knife maker for a mass-produced knife. I have a number of their knives, and I've had good luck with pretty much all of them. But I don't really heavy use them. But on that paramilitary 2, the tip on those, the S90V ones, breaking off super easy. I remember reading the story, like this guy went to cut a zip tie and it broke his knife blade, because S90V is just so freaking hard. Some of those steels are novel to me more than anything, where you get like really good edge retention if you're just cutting like rope or cardboard in a controlled environment, but they're not really hard use. Like CPM 20CV, that's a much more hard use, and it's just incredible. So anybody that were to get their hands on that, you're not going to ever experience a chef's knife like that anywhere else. That is absolutely nuts. Like, say goodbye to having dull knives or having to sharpen your knives all the time. I am excited to have one of these in my kitchen, because I am a total nut about things being sharp, and I sharpen whatever knife I'm using every time I use it, just on a steel, just touch it up a little bit, but they go dull so fast. Even I have a really nice German knife steel set, and they go dull so fast. And it's like, whereas they're better than all the other cheap ones that you could go get, like, they just don't hold an edge, because most of those are, cheaper stainless alloys, and probably get the steel from China, and which, whatever, but I get that they have to mass produce things at a cheap price, but then you get a chef's knife that's 54 Rockwell. Like, most of them are like 54, 55. It's like, that's just not, I mean, I get that they don't want to chip and stuff like that, but you can modify the alloy to where you can run something 60 to 61 and it won't chip. But that's expensive. Once again, good and cheap do not go hand in hand. They just don't. So anyway, hope everybody has a great day out there. Andrew at KimmonsHandTools.com. If you're interested in any of this cool stuff that you see on this channel or anywhere else, like the video if you see it, or if you liked it. That helps, I guess, grow the channel. The more people like it, the more they suggest it to others. So if I have, a few hundred people that watch it and I get 2 likes, YouTube won't really recommend it to anybody. So they figure if that many people watch it and nobody likes it. Anyway, if you don't like it, don't like it. Like, just whatever. So that's your business. Anyway, hope everyone has a great day out there, and I will see you next time.